with
This meeting is being recorded.
breeches and riding boots. The entire party, including little Mehera, wore solar topis. I remember that. 2 camels were provided for the family to ride. Were provided for the family to ride and were brought to the front of their house. For Mehera's mother, there was a quiet, sweet-natured female. The other, for her father, was a giant beast of off-white color, well-fed and powerful. 2 Cindy's restrained the animal from either side and made it kneel. To a 4-year-old child, the camel's mouth, teeth, and tongue seemed enormous. What a sound it made, Mehera recalled. I backed away from it, stood transfixed, never imagining it was the same animal I was about to ride. Jahangir called Mehera and lifted her up on the spirited animal, saying, "Don't be afraid, it will hold you tightly. Don't fall off." But Mehera said, "I was terrified. I held on to the front of the seat where my father was sitting. He had a complete confidence that I wasn't going to fall off." As Jahangir gave a few last-minute instructions to his men, Mehera perched alone on the animal. Then Jahangir, this might be new. Then Jahangir hopped on, took the reins, and gave command to everyone to start. The camel had been kneeling, and when the 2 Cindy's let go, it lurched to its feet. I clung to my father's waist like a monkey. I held on, kept my balance, and didn't fall. Since their bungalow in Sukur was situated on a huge flat bullock, to descend with a trot would not be advisable. So Jahangir held the camel back. But walking was worse. The camel swayed terribly back and forth, and the path became sandy. Jahangir gave the camel its reins, and its trot became gentle and smooth. Dalit was not afraid to ride on her camel. It had comfortable wooden leather-framed chairs and with cushions over the leather, in which she sat sideways. As they traveled, she knitted, read books, and kept sacks beside her. When the afternoon grew hot, the group halted to eat lunch under a grove of shady trees, while the pack camels went ahead with their Cindy handlers to set up camp for the night. After they had rested for a while, they took until evening and reached the site where their camp had been pitched, and everything was ready. The tents were erected and dinner was being prepared. One tent contained the dining room, another the kitchen, which Dalit never had to enter, since their Christian cook and Muslim butler, Kasim, journeyed with them. They also had a large, beautiful tent decorated with scallops and tassels that contained a sitting room, bedrooms, even a small bathroom. At the back, cotton carpets were spread on the ground. After reaching his new posting, Jahangir often took his family along when he had to make official visits within the district. While Dalit and Mehera remained at the campsite, Jahangir at times spent all day out on horseback, contacting parties in distant, remote villages. Mehera remembered him returning at night exhausted, since the servants were not allowed into private family quarters. Mehera loved to unstrap her father's knee cups and jodhpurs for him and pull off his boots. Because Jahangir had to work outside in the open and was constantly exposed to the sun, he always wore a solar topi, according to Mehera, and went prematurely bald as a result. My father was so strong and happy, said Mehera. He led a very rough life, always in the sun on horseback and camel. For years, he was a forest officer in the north, and he kept up this strenuous life. The British made Indians take up these outposts that were in terrific heat, as the Westerners would not want to go there, but the job always paid a handsome salary. Okay, who would like to take over? How about Eugene?
Sometimes when Paroja joined them on her holidays from school, Jahangir tied a hammock between two trees for the girls and gave them stalks of sugarcane to chew. Father was very loving. He was so big and brave, but very gentle also. He loved his children. One night, as she was bringing dinner to their tent, the bearer's wife was bitten by a snake. Jahangir rushed out with the wooden first aid box, and Mehera watched him drain the wound of poison and sprinkle potassium permanganate in it. He didn't hesitate to cut the wound. My father was a very forceful, bold person who never knew what fear was. Not only did he and two assistants hunt down, catch, and bind a notorious thief, but he was fearless with wild animals as well. When tigers came prowling around their tent at night, their pet cocker spaniels would start barking and the tigers would roar back. Can you imagine how frightened we were when the tigers started roaring? Asked Mehera. Jahangir, however, was not afraid. He drank his usual jug of milk and went to sleep. Then one night, while they were all asleep, a large wild tomcat smelled the milk near Jahangir's bed and managed to claw a hole in their tent. Silently, the cat crept inside, put its head inside the jug, and began licking the remains. But its head became stuck. Frightened, the cat started jumping about and made a terrible ruckus. Dowlett woke up screaming. The kerosene lantern in their tent was knocked down and went out, plunging the tent in darkness. Mehera clung to her mother. Jahangir quickly relit the lantern. He could not catch the big cat, so he rolled up the tent flap, and the cat bounded out with a jug on its head. Next morning, Jahangir sent some servants to see what had happened to it. They found that the animal had managed to bang its head on a stone, break the jug, and get free. Yay! Another time, while taking a walk in the jungle before dinner with his family, as he enjoyed doing while traveling, Jahangir had an encounter with a different kind of creature. Dowlett was always reluctant to venture into the bush for these evening walks. The sun would just be setting and the jungle was already dark. But she did go, and so did Mehera and Paroja, if she was there. One evening, on their way back to camp, Jahangir heard a rustling in the leaves and saw a large snake. He told Dowlett to take the girls back to camp and untie the dogs. Dowlett was frightened and told Jahangir, "Let the snake be, come back with us. It's dark and you don't even have a stick. How will you kill it?" Jahangir was not to be deterred. He chased the reptile through the underbrush and threw a large stone at it, killing it. Then he wrapped it around a dead branch and brought it back to camp. It was completely dark by then. Large, bright lanterns with magnifying glass on their sides had been set on stands around the camp where everyone was sitting. When Dowlett saw the snake, she was horrified. But Jahangir said, "Come and have a look. You must see the poison sacks." "I don't want to see them," Dowlett said. "No, you must learn about such things." "I have no desire to learn anything about snakes." Nevertheless, Jahangir took out a razor from the first aid box and proceeded to cut open the snake's jaws. He showed the girls the venom sacs behind the fangs, explaining it all as he did so. When it was over, Dowlett implored, "Now, please don't bring any more snakes." But he did bring home a giant lizard that he had shot and wanted to show them. Dowlett, again, had no interest in it and begged him to get rid of it. But the cook saw it first and said, "Don't throw it away, Sahib. I can make a nourishing curry from it." And
I
he
wonder if
did.
Delight ate the curry.
The tribal people they encountered along the way also fascinated Jahangir. He owned a camera and often dismounted from his horse to snap a few pictures of the bejeweled tribal women dressed in pants. These and other photographs, such as the girls on ponies, were subsequently unfortunately lost when Mehera and her mother left home to join Meher Baba. Occasionally, while they were traveling, Jahangir shot a deer for meat, as they could not carry much meat with them while moving through the forest. He never hunted for sport, but he did kill tigers that were plaguing the local population, dragging off sheep and goats, as this represented a substantial loss of property. Over the years, he killed 14 tigers in this way.
Wow.
The skins would be sent to a taxidermist, but the family never ate the meat. One often used method of killing a tiger was to tie a baby goat under a tree as bait. Although he might be tired from working all day in the hot sun, Jahangir would climb the tree and wait patiently until the tiger cautiously approached. Then he would fire and kill it with a single shot. He was a sure shot, Mehera said. If the beast isn't killed but only wounded, Jahangir explained to his daughters, it will become a man-eater. This happened once, and Jahangir risked his life to kill the wounded cat. He and two sepoys tracked the tiger with a flashlight at night through the jungle by following its bloodstains. They found it in its lair, and Jahangir shot the tiger as it was licking its wound. Once, a pregnant tigress was killed. Two infant cubs were found inside it. Jahangir had them preserved in a large jar of formaldehyde, which he placed on the mantle in the drawing room.
Wow.
Wonderful, right? Baby tigers in a jar of
The year
formaldehyde.
of the tigers. The year of the tigers.
Why don't you just finish it? There's only a little bit more.
I was fascinated, said Mehera. The cubs were fully developed and would have been born in 8 days. We had, as well, 1 or 2 tiger skins on the floor in our drawing room. Father gave tiger skins to his European friends, too. After Jahangir died, Dowlett gave the tiger skins away, but she did keep a jar of tiger fat, which the taxidermist had sent along with the skins, as it was supposedly beneficial as a massage for rheumatism. She also sent a jar of fat to her mother, Shireen. But Dowlett was uneasy about Jahangir's exploits. She had a fearful premonition about his hunting activities and would say later about her husband, though Mehera never believed it. He died so young. because he killed all those tigers.
Were you reading from your own book, Eugene?
No, I added a word, unfortunately, to all those pictures that got lost.
Oh, because I don't see anything about her mother, Shireen.
Oh, that's the sidebar on the left.
Oh, okay.
Her
Okay.
mother Shireen in Pune. And then we have a
Okay.
picture of
Mara and her sister. And that's also, there's Mara and her mother and her sister. And I guess,
And father.
Yep.
Yeah, you got them both.
1910.
That's all they took.
oh, this is the picture I was looking for.
Uh,
This is Mara.
Looks like it's been retouched.
yeah.
Yeah, that's in the original also.
Mhm. Okay, so Rosalie, would you like to read?
Yeah. School years. While Perosia was away at school, Nara spent an entire year traveling with her parents in the rugged Sindh province of the northwest frontier. Traveling to such an extent was most unusual for the times. People then hardly ever left their places of birth more than a few times in a lifetime. It was all a precursor to a life with Meher Baba, when their residence shifted every few months and traveling from place to place was the norm. Though we were a bit young to enjoy it completely, Mara said, there was always a new place, a new home for us children. It was good training for travel with Baba. And the sidebar is Sindh, the region in southern Pakistan, which includes Sugar, was known as Unhappy Valley, or the land of uncertainties by ancient travelers, not only because of its harsh topography, but also due to the number of rival and often warring tribesmen that I can't say that inhabited the area. When Mara turned 6, however, it was time for her to begin her education. Jahangir had wanted his daughters to study at home. Before Perosia had left, he had suggested that they engage a private tutor, but Dowlett had argued that the children should be sent away to school. The northwest frontier was an undeveloped, barren region and had no good schools. So it had been decided to send Perosia to Pune. The convent school is run by nuns, Dowlett had reasoned. The girls will be well trained and disciplined properly, as the nuns are very strict. Jahangir, who was congenial by nature, gave in to his wife. Otherwise, he would have preferred to have his children at home. Mara said, my father didn't want us to go to school away from him. He loved to have us near him. When he came home from work, he loved to see the house full of children. My brother had died as a young child, and my father loved us very much. He loved to give us a good time. He wanted us to enjoy ourselves. Then we had to go away, though we too didn't like it. Jahangir told Dowlett never to slap or spank the children. He himself never did. That's sweet.
Yeah, enlightened dad.
Yeah, yeah. When the children had been up to some mischief, Dalit would reprimand them gently in front of their father. When he was away, she became sterner. Under British rule, Pune was a military station full of Europeans. Besides the many British officers' children, foreign children from outlying stations came to Pune to stay with their relatives for their education. Some of the children were day scholars and some were boarders. At the beginning of 1913, Jahangir took Mehra to Pune by train, a journey of several days. There, Jahangir spoke with Mother Angela, the principal of the convent school, and persuaded her to accept both Mehra and Pirojsha as boarders. Since the convent school was Roman Catholic, it was unusual for non-white, non-Catholics to be accepted as boarders. Ordinarily, they did not allow boarding to anyone but Europeans, even to the Parsis or the Goanese Christians. But it was necessary for the sisters to be boarders, since Jahangir and Dalit would be traveling. And Dalit's sister, Khorshid, the aunt with whom Pirojsha had been staying, was not willing to look after two children. The sidebar says, there is also a theory that Pune's original name may have been Punyapur, sacred city, because it stood near the confluence of the Muta and Mula rivers, and such places were regarded as holy. J. Dindi and S. Gupta, Pune, Queen of the Deccan. Okay, I lost my place. Where am I? Okay, the Mother Superior. Thank you. The Mother Superior agreed, but said that the school would have to charge double the fee, to which Jahangir acquiesced. Thus, Mehra and Pirojsha were among the first non-European boarders at the school. They were not full-time, but weekly boarders, since Aunt Khorshid did agree to be their legal guardian. On weekends, they went to her house at 87 Main Street to enjoy home-cooked food and play with their cousins. Jahangir was concerned that they would feel cooped up at school if they were not allowed to visit their relatives, at least on weekends. The name Pune is derived from the Sanskrit word Puna, Purna, meaning complete. And with Meher Baba also there at this time, Pune was now complete with both the King of Beauty and his beloved in residence. Mehra entered the convent of Jesus and Mary school in the preparatory section just after her 6th birthday on 14th January, 1913. The school was not coeducational. The boys and girls classes were separate. Mehra was registered as Mary Irani, and it was by this name that she was known by both her classmates and her teachers for the entire 7 years she spent at the school. Pirojsha was always called by her given name until she met Meher Baba and became Franey. Mehra did not mind being called Mary. In fact, she welcomed it. When she was 6 or 7, she remembered asking her mother, "Why did you give me such a plain name? Mehra sounds so simple. Other girls have such lovely names. What name would you have chosen if you had your choice?" Dalit had asked. Mehera had never considered this, but she replied, if I'd had my choice, I might have liked to be called Nargis, which had a nice ring to it, she thought, or maybe a multi-syllable name, such as Katayun or Triti, she added. Katayun and Triti were two of the three daughters of Zoroaster. Only years later would Mehera realize that her name was perfect, so close to her beloved Meher. Although Mehera was not a studious child, she became accustomed to the routine of waking up early and attending classes all day. Every morning before the children went inside for lessons, they gathered in the courtyard in front of the school where they played games. When the church bell rang, they stopped and assembled for prayers. A 4-line benediction was jointly recited aloud each morning. Sometimes they also sang songs. At school, we were taught all of the nice songs about England, such as Britannia Rules the Waves and others, said Mehera. All of the teachers were women, and they had one teacher for all subjects, with approximately 20 girls to a class. At that time, no uniforms were worn. Mehera always wore a short dress with long sleeves to school. I liked frills, ruffles, and used to wear them on dresses of different colors. Ooh, something has obscured my reading material.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how that happened.
Don't forget, you have a sidebar to read. There's a Persian named Mehera.
Oh, yeah. The Persian name Mehera is the feminine form of Meher, which has many meanings. It can mean the sun, love, friendship, compassion, or a pact. It is also the name of an angel, Mir, and the name of the 16th day of 7th month of the Zoroastrian calendar, analogous to a Western couple naming their child May.
Mehera is like May. I guess
Yeah,
that's what
or like the month, I guess.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All of the teachers were women, and they had one teacher for all subjects, with approximately 20 girls to a class. At that time, no uniforms were worn. Mehera always, we're repeating, aren't we? Let's see. No. Mehera always wore a short dress with long sleeves to school. I liked frills, ruffles, and used to wear them on dresses of different colors. During school, an emphasis was placed on good manners and discipline. When a student passed a nun or a principal in the hall, they were taught to say, "Good morning, sister," or "Good morning, mother." They would reply, "Good morning, my child." Mehera did not find this atmosphere restrictive. On the contrary, the nuns were loving, and she found the convent school to be a pleasant, secure place. In the evenings, the boarders, both Western and Indian, played together. A large public church was inside the school compound, and also a small chapel. The children were sometimes required to attend services there and sing hymns. We had to recite, "Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us." Mehera remembered the church was beautifully decorated with lovely lilies inside. I went there once or twice and touched the holy water. Sometimes the girls went there on their own. They were not allowed to go inside, but whenever the door was left ajar, they would peep inside and watch the nuns praying. Perosha looked after her baby sister at the school. Mera had curls in her hair, and some of the children teased her by pulling the curls. Perosha would intervene and protect her. But Mera could also take care of herself. One student at the school was the son of Aga Khan. Every day, his European governess brought him to school in a Rolls Royce. On the playground, the boy would tease Mera for being an Irani. Most Iranis in Pune ran tea shops. So the boy would taunt, "Hey, chai wala, tea server, chai wala, bring me some tea, bring me my tea." The boy's name was Abraham. So Mera would counter with, "Abraham, Graham, chickpeas, 2 paisas, and scram," as if he were a lowly street hawker of Graham. Perosha also helped Mera with her studies. Mera wasn't clever in school, she said. "I didn't have a good memory," Mera admitted. "If I had to learn a poem by heart, I would have to say it over and over again before it would stick. School was too serious for me." "I loved to climb trees, ride horses, or run in the field with my pet dog. I enjoyed things like rubbing flint together and making a spark. I was too playful. I wasn't studious at all." All of the nuns at the school were Europeans. Some were Swedish, some English, and a few were Irish. This put Mera and her sister at a disadvantage. They tended to like their own kind and preferred often fair-skinned Eurasian girls at the school. Every year, the European children put on an annual school concert with several song and dance numbers. One year, Mera was chosen to take part in the annual review. She was to be an Arabian dancing girl. When the curtains opened, the children sang, one little happy girl runs into view. In comes another, and now there are two little happy girls shouting with glee. Here comes another, and now there are 3. In this way, 8 girls came on stage, all dressed in Arabian costumes, and danced together. 7 fair-skinned European girls, and Mera, the only Indian.
Do you need
Mera-
a break? Do you need someone to take over?
No, I'm liking it.
Okay.
Mera was nervous about the number, but according to one of her classmates, she was a good actress, and from then on would always be chosen for concerts or skits. Unfortunately, group photos of the girls were never taken at the school, and so no photos exist of Mera in these parts. When she became a student at the convent school, Mera also began to see more of her grandparents. Both sets of grandparents were born and raised in Persia, immigrated to India shortly after their marriages, and settled in Pune. All of their children were born in India. According to Baba's cousin Naja, the sons of one of Mera's paternal aunts were among Baba's childhood friends. Oh, in Jahangir's family, there were 13 children, 11 boys and 2 girls. One of Jahangir's brothers, an engineer named Jal, died while duck hunting. He shot a bird at the Muta River in Bun Gardens and died while trying to retrieve it. Wow. Later, it was surmised that a whirlpool must have caught him. Mehera once joked, he and the duck both went down. Jahangir's family was middle class, but as was customary, the parents and all of the brothers lived together in Pune. Even Jahangir's married brother and his wife, who cooked for the whole family. Jahangir was the only one who lived apart. His father was Hormozji Irani. He was tall, over 6 feet, like Jahangir, with a good build, fair complexion, and a long white beard. Hormozji was a fine person, quiet in nature, and possessing an even disposition. He had no formal education when he came to India, but he spoke Gujarati and was industrious and intelligent. He was also a shrewd businessman. Sidebar, Mehera's paternal grandmother's name is not known. Grandfather Hormozji started a fish and egg business and was the first in Pune to order frozen fish from Bombay. Since people preferred the saltwater fish from Bombay to their local river fish, Hormozji's business prospered. The fish came packed in ice, and Hormozji later expanded into ice factories, opening one in Madras and another in Shalapur. Because of Aunt Khorshid's guardianship, the children mostly visited Dalit's side of the family. But Jahangir would write to his daughters that they should also spend at least some weekends with his family. The girls were also taken to their paternal grandparents' home twice during their holidays. Parosha did not mind, but Mehera did not like it there. My paternal grandparents' house was not my type of place. I never liked to go there. I remember mountains of eggs. Every morning we had fried fish and fried eggs. I used to get sick of having it every day. I was not a very big eater. Besides,
Could I, excuse me, could I read for a bit
Yeah.
before we end the meeting?
oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to find the cursor so I can, okay, Deb, you want to pick up?
Yeah, just for a page or two. Besides, there are so many relatives, so many people living together in the house. One of my uncles was married at the time. He had 2 or 3 sons and 1 daughter. Mehera did enjoy playing with her cousins, though. When they played horsey with a cart attached, Mehera always wanted to be the horse and pull the other children. I never thought to ask them to give me a ride in the cart. I always preferred to do something strenuous. From childhood, Mehera liked to work hard, to use her muscles, her physical strength and stamina more than her mind, and to put her whole effort into something, like riding horses at an early age. Other games they played were I Spy and hide and seek. Grandpa Hormozji had a large overcoat that hung from a peg on the wall and nearly touched the floor. I would hide inside my grandfather's coat, said Mehera, but my feet showed a little bit, so they would catch me very quickly. Despite the games, I didn't enjoy it at my paternal grandparents' house and didn't want to go there. The 3rd time we were sent there, I put my foot down. I told them, I'm not going to stay there. The elders asked me, where do you want to go? I replied, to my other grandmothers. Mehera loved her maternal grandmother Shireen the most, as she was always sweet and loving, and she too loved Mehera. A tonga carriage was called, and Mehera was put inside and sent to a maternal grandparents' guest house, the Royal Hotel. Mehera's maternal grandfather, Sohrab Salatma Irani, had been a cook in Iran. When he and his wife Shireen moved to Pune, they started a guest house for Zoroastrians near the Pune railroad station and named the Royal Hotel, later known as the Edward Hotel. They had 7 children, 4 boys and 3 girls. Ardeshir Shara was the eldest, then followed by Khorshid, Dinsha, Frani, Dalat, the youngest girl, Mirwan, parentheses, Colonel M.S. Irani, and Rustam, or Rusi. Both maternal grandparents were serene and soft-spoken. They would converse in Dari, their native Irani language. Though they learned Gujarati from the Parsis who stayed at their hotel, grandfather Sohrab always spoke it with a slight Irani accent. Grandmother Shireen was the backbone of the family. She was an intelligent, good-looking woman, fairish in complexion with white hair. Her face reminded Mehera later of Babajan's, though Babajan's was slightly smaller. But most of the girls' free time on the weekend was spent at their Aunt Khorshid's house on Main Street, where they went to take a bath and wash their hair before returning unhappily to school on Monday morning. Even though they slept at the school dormitory during the week, Aunt Khorshid sent them their meals in a tiffin carrier.
Yeah.
You want to read the sidebar?
Oh, okay, I have to read it on the screen here. All of Dalat's brothers were university graduates, which was highly unusual for the times. Ardeshir was a mechanical engineer and formed a business partnership with Dinsha. Mirwan became a surgeon, and Rusi became an architect and civil engineer. Right. Someone else like to read?
No, why don't you read more?
You want to read a little more, Deb?
Okay, I'll read another page. Aunt Khorshid's house, though separate, was not a suitable place for the children to play because the compound was cluttered and not clean. So the girls often went to her daughter Gula's house and sometimes spent the night there. Aunt Khorshid had been childless in her marriage for 7 years before Gula was born. When she grew up, Gula had married a Parsi military veterinarian in a love marriage, which was and still is unusual. Arranged marriages are the norm amongst all communities in India. Now Gula lived in a quiet cottage on the edge of town, near the race course, not too far from Aunt Khorshid's. It had plenty of open ground where the girls could run around. European children who lived in surrounding bungalows came to play with them, and sometimes Gula took the girls to the races. They also went on small outings with their relatives and were always present for family gatherings and on holidays. So we didn't feel so unhappy to be in Pune alone, away from our parents, said Mehera. When Jahangir was transferred, however, from Sindh province in the northwest frontier to Thana district north of Bombay, it was close enough for the girls to visit their parents more often. They went there on longer holidays, such as the 2-week Diwali Festival Lights holiday in November, at Christmas for 3 weeks, and during their 6 weeks summer vacation in April and May. Occasionally, since Jahangir was the gregarious sort and his solitary, isolated postings prevented him from much socializing, They would visit other places as well, such as Jahangir's first cousin, who lived in Dahanu, a few hours north of Tana on the coast, in a spacious house surrounded by orchards. They also once stayed with their parents in a bungalow on the south side of Bombay. After some time, Jahangir was transferred to Veraval in Gujarat, and here the family had a two-story government duplex by the sea with a large compound. There were no other houses in the area, but a collector, district commissioner, and his family, which included several children, occupied the other half of the duplex. This highly placed official was a Jew, and like Jahangir, a member of a minority, but he had converted to Christianity. The two families shared a lot in common, however, and in the evenings they often sat outside together visiting. The men had after-dinner drinks, while the ladies chatted and the children played nearby. Sometimes, many times, they sat in a circle and played some sort of game. Down at the beach, buoys, nets, and poles marked a place in the ocean for swimming, but Jahangir was occupied with his work and did not have time to teach the girls to swim during the month they were there. Sometimes David, the college-age son of the collector, would be home on holidays, and he would take Mehera and Proja on his shoulders and wade deep into the water. But most of the time, the girls just waded into the shallow part or played on the beach when Aya watched over them.
Okay.
Sidebar
Oh,
says, Jahangir, however, did take them on a trip to the little Ran of Kutch.
okay. I think we'll stop here. Oh, I forgot to note what page it was.
Page 20. Page
Oh.
20, Tina.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so we'll start on page 21 next time.